All right, hello. Welcome to Otis Frampton Live. Today's a special day. It's the final order cutoff day for issue number 1 of Patchwork Girl of Oz. So I hope that you've gotten your pre-orders in at your local comic shop. If you haven't, please head out to the comic shop, let them know you want it, or give them a call, pre-order. Pre-orders are so important. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. In the meantime, what I plan to do today, let's get in here, there we go, is color a page, or work on the colors for a page, as long as I can, for about an hour of the series, and talk about it a little bit. Let's see, making sure I'm good on all the, yeah, looks like I'm good. All right, I'm going to just jump in here, actually. Let me just do something real quick. There we go. So I'm just going to jump in and start talking about this. I've been working on this series actually for a couple of years now, on and off. It was originally a newsletter exclusive comic for my newsletter subscribers. And if you want to, you can go to my website and click on the link to subscribe to my Substack newsletter. And then during an email exchange with Eric Stevenson, the publisher of Image Comics, the publisher of my Oddly Normal graphic novel series, he was checking in to see how things are going, and just offhand, I kind of asked him if he'd ever be interested in publishing an Oz series, and I at that point I had done enough pages to have it a whole issue done, basically, and sent him a link to what I had, and he said yes. It was like the easiest pitch I've ever done in some ways. So that's how that happened. And so one of the things I wanted to do today, which again is final order cutoff day for issue 1, is talk about why I decided to even start doing an Oz adaptation. There have been so many great ones over the years. Most notably, the Marvel Oz adaptation and of the first 6 books, and an adaptation of the first book by it was a European team of writer and artist, and it was republished by Image actually in like 2008. Anyway, bottom line, I'm going to go through the 10 reasons why I'm doing this adaptation, and this is sort of based on something I published in my newsletter when the newsletter exclusive comic first started, which is why an adaptation of Patchwork Girl of Oz? Because why even bother? Why do that when other things going? It doesn't need to be done. Number one reason is I'm an Oz fan. I have been for almost all of my life. Like most people, it started out having seen the 1939 MGM movie musical, falling in love with that, and then discovering the Oz books, the series, most notably the famous 14 that were written by L. Frank Baum himself. It eventually went on to be continued by other writers. But the famous 14 are the ones that I really, considered the official ones. You know what I mean? And I became an Oz fan. I read the books. Saw the movie Return to Oz when it came out in 85. Liked that. Liked that it at least tried to do Baum's books a little bit of justice. It was, sort of a pseudo sequel to the film, but it was also based on it sort of merged two of the Baum books together to create one story. It's kind of cool. Still is. Walter Murch directed it. It's the only movie he's ever directed. was I saying? An Oz fan, yeah. So yeah, it's I'm a big Oz fan. It's one funny sort of connection to the Oz series that I've always loved is personal connection. I mean, is that Margaret Hamilton, who played the Wicked Witch of the West, one of my favorite characters ever. She and I share a birthday. We were both born on the same day, December 9th. So that was always kind of cool to me. It's like, hey, I was born the same day as Wicked Witch of the West. So number two. Number two reason, and I'm reading off my list here because I have already written it out, so I hope you don't mind. This is kind of my way of paying L. Frank Baum back. He's a hero of mine. I know his story very well, his history. He's a huge influence. It's sort of like, for me, there's George Lucas, there's L. Frank Baum, there's Jack Kirby. It's like those are some of my biggest heroes. And paying Baum back in this way, because it's a lot of work to make comics, and so I really got to love doing this to do that. But his influence on me can be seen in so many ways, especially in my first Image comic series, Oddly Normal. It's hugely influenced by Oz and Baum. You can tell that. I cite the story basically within the first few pages. They have the main character actually mention it in a sort of oblique way, so you can really see that there was a huge influence. What's next? Number three, I've always wanted to do an Oz book. I've wanted to do an Oz adaptation for so long, and for a while considered doing one for the first book, which that would make sense, because why jump into the other books when most people are familiar with the movie, and that's pretty much it. I just realized I forgot something in the links here. Hold on a second. I wonder if I can still make that work. I'm gonna have like a bit of a bend there. What was I saying? Wanted to do an Oz adaptation, and considered doing one, around the same time as the story for Oddly Normal was originally percolating way back in like 1999, 2000 era. So I started working on that. Sorry, I'm trying to fix this here. And then later on, after the first version of Oddly Normal came out from Viper Comics, I considered again doing an Oz adaptation, and then I found out about the Marvel adaptation coming out, which was amazing, by Eric Shanower and Scotty Young. And having seen that, I'm like, well, no point in me doing it now. It's being done by a great team, and it's going to be awesome, and I'm going to buy it, and I'm probably going to love it, and I did. And then I saw the Image Comics republish of the European version and again it was like, well, it's been done really great. No point in going there. And I proceeded to continue to work with Oddly Normal and trying to get that back up on its feet after I got it back from Viper Comics, and that went to Image. And anyway, a few years later, and I apologize if I'm missing some chat here, but for this live stream, I'm just kind of talking about the new comic and why I'm doing it and how I'm doing it and what's going on there. So anyway, a few years later, I started doing these character designs, just sort of like as studies of Oz characters from all the books, but mainly from Patchwork Girl, because I loved. It's one of my favorite books in the series. It just so happens that the Oz series stopped at book 6. Patchwork Girl is book 7, and I guess in the back of my mind I always thought, well, maybe if I ever do an Oz adaptation, it will be Patchwork Girl. I kind of lucked up that Marvel stopped at 6, which is actually where L. Frank Baum stopped when he was writing the books, but I'll get into that later. But they stopped at 6, and I thought, well, if I do 7, I'm not stepping on really any toes. And I don't think I looked around to see if anybody had done an adaptation of Patchwork Girl, and to my knowledge, still hasn't been done. There was a adaptation Kickstarter for it that was going on like a year ago or so, I think. After I started my comic, and it didn't succeed, so the project never got funded, never happened. It might still happen, I don't know. Anyway, so I went, maybe someday I'll do Patchwork Girl. So I started doing Oz character designs of all the characters, but sprinkling in a lot of Patchwork Girl characters in there, especially Patchwork Girl herself. And I had so much fun doing them all, and still doing them. I'm still, every once in a while throwing out an Oz character design, even for characters that aren't in this book, just because it's just fun. I just like doing it. I'm gonna give her a little soft edge here. And at a certain point, it was right after my first brain surgery health scare thing. I was like, you know what? If I'm going to really do this, I got to commit to it. And I just decided I was going to do my newsletter, my Substack. And I said, okay, I'll do a newsletter exclusive webcomic. I was actually doing 2 of them. One that I had to kind of put on the back burner now that I'm doing Patchwork Girl officially. But you can go to my Substack to check that out. And I said, okay, I'll do Patchwork Girl and this other one as newsletter exclusives, just for my subscribers, and it'll just be for fun, and I'll do it, when I can while I'm working on other stuff, and it'll just get this out of my system for good, And like I said, eventually, it became more than that, and is becoming more than that. So that's the story of that. I was thinking of maybe self-publishing it, doing an indie Kickstarter kind of thing someday for it, but I couldn't not be more thrilled that it's going to Image. It makes me so happy. You have no idea. It's really great. All right. Number 4, which is there is no existing adaptation of Patchwork Girl, which I sort of covered in the last one, but yeah, it felt like it was open to. It was right for the picking, so to speak. It was there. Nobody else had done it. It was sitting there. It's a great story. Like I said, it's now kind of become my favorite of the Oz books. Just having worked on it and delved into it by adapting it. I love it. And you gotta love, if you're doing comics, especially one band type stuff the way I do, you gotta love the characters and everything in it. And I do. I love the story. It's a great story. It's unusual in the Oz series in that it mainly features a character from Oz, not an outsider coming in and seeing it for the first time. And also, it's a story that has a very specific sort of drive to it, in that it's a quest story. It's about Ojo trying to go on this quest around Oz, which he's never been to. He's sort of grown up in the woods of Oz, so he's never seen much of it. So that's a fun aspect. But it's a story about a quest. He's trying to find the resources to bring back and save his uncle, and that gives the story a lot of heart. Something that the original book did in terms of Dorothy wanting to get home. Some of the other books are more just adventures in Oz kind of things, but this one really had a lot of heart at the center of it, and I love that. And I mean, also there's Scraps herself, the Patchwork Girl. What a great character. She has turned out to be a bit of a pain in terms of like drawing her and coloring her and dealing with all the patches and all the colors, but it's a fun challenge. There's no complaints whatsoever about that. I'm just gonna shade these in here fully. But yeah, man, what a great character. She, if you get, maybe I'll post a link to this someday. Disney almost did an Oz movie, and they showed some of the behind the scenes stuff about it on their what was it, like Sunday Night Disney kind of thing? I forget what it was, but you can find it on YouTube, and there's actual footage of live action Patchwork. It looks so cool. Other than that, I think she showed up in a couple of animated series, as a side character. And, of course, I think I'm saying this correctly. I think Patchwork Girl of Oz was the first movie that L. Frank Baum produced out in, Hollywood when it was still being, developed. I think Patchwork Girl was his first one. It was either that or Scarecrow of Oz. I forget. I should know that. I'll find out for sure so that when I could ask these questions. But yeah, Patchwork Girl was he made a movie about Patchwork Girl, so you can see. Oops, that's not right. Let's do that. Yeah. So, and I've watched it to sort of get a sense of how Baum himself saw the story playing out visually. In the end, I got to do my own thing, but it's really cool that he liked the story enough, and that he decided to use it in his filmmaking ventures. The man did everything. He had so many jobs over his life, and he jumped on the whole Hollywood thing early on. When it was I don't even think it was called Hollywood yet. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so number 5. What was number 5? Ah, yes. So I mentioned this. I alluded to this earlier that Patchwork Girl is book 7 in Baum's Oz series. And it is the book that he wrote when he returned to the series after he thought he was finished with it with book 6. He ended book 6 with sort of a declaration that the Oz had cut off communication with the real world, and he wouldn't hear from them again. He was talking to the readers, his children, his beloved children readers of his books, who clearly loved writing for kids. That's one of the things I love about the guy. But he said Oz has cut off all communication, and I will have no more. I will hear no more from him. He was considered the royal historian of Oz in that respect. Anyway, he got lots of letters from fans, the children who loved his books and loved Oz and loved stories about Oz, and also there were financial considerations in that he knew that if he wrote an Oz book, it'd probably sell. Well, he wrote another Oz book, and book 7 turned out to be Patchwork Girl, and it's, like I said, it's one of his favorites, or he said it's one of his favorites. I think a different one is one he considers his best. I think that's which one is that? Maybe TikTok of Oz? I forget which one he said was his best. But, yeah. So there's that. That's when he came back to it with book 7, and it feels, like a kind of a refresh. And I kind of addressed that. The first page of the new series is Baum himself, talking about how he reestablished communication with Oz, and it's quaint, and I couldn't not include it. Make sure that this is clear. And that's another way to honor the guy. He created this. It's almost like Oz is almost like a franchise. It's a known quantity. Everybody knows what Oz is. And everybody, has something that they like about it. You can see it now in what's happening with Wicked. That people are still discovering Oz, and hopefully that helps out Patchwork Girl. And I promise you, that was not a planned thing to sort of make Patchwork Girl this follow-up or to what's happening with Wicked. I've been working on this since 2022, so 2 years. It just so happened that you know, Wicked happened to come out as a movie at the same time. So if people who come to us through that find Patchwork Girl that way, that would be great. I would love that very much. I happen to be a fan of Wicked. The novel is one of my favorite books of all time, and was very influential in the same way that the original Oz books were. It was influential in my take on the Fantasyland genre in Oddly Normal. Wicked, the book, really, I loved it when I read it when it first came out. All right, what's next? What time is it? 2:23. We're at number 6. Well, this is a very important reason why I thought to do an adaptation of Patchwork Girl. It's in the public domain, as are all of Baum's original books, the famous 14, as well as many of the books that followed that were officially sort of endorsed. I don't think all of them are in the public domain right now. I could be wrong about that, but the famous 14 are for sure in the public domain. What am I doing? Oh yeah. So sorry, kind of a little lost here. I'm gonna start doing some stuff here. So it's it's there for the picking. It's fair game. If honestly though, if Marvel had kept going with the series, I don't think I would have done it. It's not even I don't think. I'm sure I wouldn't have done it. I would have seen it as, stepping on toes, going over ground that had already been covered. There would be no reason for me to do this book. I might have chosen Patchwork Girl even if the Marvel series never existed, because again, it's one of my favorites. I love it, and it's got so much great stuff in it. And it's not just a retread of the original book. But anyway, it's in the public domain, so fair game. And I said, well, that's the one I'll do. Hold on one second. Oh, where was I? There we go. Sometimes you lose your train of thought when you're doing these live stream things. Let me just do something real quick. All right, that was number 6. Oh, I was just going to talk about this. Number 7 is I've never done an adaptation before. I've worked on the only thing I've done freelance comic stuff for Capstone. I did a biography comic that I don't talk about because I'm not happy with how that turned out. And I did a story in Star Wars Adventures. So I've done work on other things that I haven't written. But I don't like how that looks. I'll figure it out later. Sorry, lost my train of thought. I've never done an adaptation before, and I thought it would be an interesting challenge. I mainly prefer to do my own thing. That's one reason why I never really thought of pursuing a career as but as a comic artist who works on Spider-Man or X-Men or known comic quantities. I didn't grow up thinking, oh, I love comics. I can't wait to try to work on X-Men. My favorite creators were all I don't like the way that it's a little too sharp. I'm gonna change brushes here real quick and try. Where's my there? I think this one might do good for that. Sorry, I know I'm talking to myself, but I'm thinking out loud. Adaptations are just so different. They have different challenges. Yeah, I like that better. They have such different challenges because, especially when you're doing something like adapting a book into a visual medium, or from written word to the visual medium, there, changes are inevitable and oftentimes necessary, because they're two very different mediums. One of the things that I decided early on was that I wasn't gonna do like narration. A lot of Oz comic adaptations in the past have done that, where they basically take the prose text of that, that's almost like a story, almost like Baum telling the story, to the children. And I said, I'm not going to do that. I don't like that. It ultimately ends up looking like you're showing and telling, and not just showing or telling. You know what I mean? It's sort of like old Marvel comics, where Stan would say what's happening while Jack still had to draw it out. It just doesn't seem right. It doesn't work for the visual medium, in my opinion. So that's one thing I had decided early on. I'm not going to do that, and so that's been a big challenge, because it's forced me to do things a little differently. One second here. Just going to lighten it up a little bit. Just give it a little fade. So when I decided to start doing this adaptation, I actually kind of went to school on adaptations themselves and looked at some mostly film adaptations from novels that I thought worked really well. Specifically things like The Godfather, Stand By Me, and Shawshank Redemption. I mean, both those last two by Stephen King. They're just terrific adaptations. Shawshank especially, it's the novella it's based on is really good, and the film somehow makes everything in it better and it elevates it all. And I looked at Shawshank a lot and listened to audio commentaries for it. Listened to Frank Darabont interviews, try to understand his approach to adaptations. Right now, I'm gonna work on the frame here and show you that for this book, I'm kind of going with a. Whoops, where's my? There it is. Like a almost painted background, but not quite painted background look. So the line art for background elements gets colored, so that the characters stand out a little bit more. That's what I'm doing right now. But yeah, I actually kind of studied adaptations. Another adaptation that I love, and I've actually remember when I was a kid. I was a weird kid. Amadeus was adapted from the stage play, and I read the stage play, and it was so different from the movie, which I'd already seen. What's happening here? Oh, that's why. I remember thinking, this is so different. I can't believe how much was changed and how great those changes made the material. That was one of the first times I remember understanding what an adaptation was. So, in my adaptation of Patchwork Girl, I make no excuses or bones about it. There's going to be changes. Is that the? Yeah. There's going to be some changes because comics is a visual medium, and I've only got so many pages per issue and to work with, and so many hours of the day to work in. So some things I would say that 95% of the book is straight from the comic is straight from the book. 90, maybe more. I might be overblowing a couple of the changes that I've made, and the changes are like, trust me, it's not going to harm the story. but it's and from the point of view of a fan, it's been frustrating because it's like, oh, I really want to include that, but sometimes you got to move a story along, and get everything in, and also allow for some moments that might be breezed over in the novel that need a little bit more juice visually to give it emotional weight, so to speak, if that makes any sense. There's a few times where I'll sacrifice something to make a moment really important. Case in point, this page. I thought it was really important to give the Patchwork Girl this moment where she sees her reflection for the first time. I thought, well, that's a moment. That deserves something more than just a panel or two. Oops, hold on. There we go. I gotta go grab some reference here real quick. Please excuse me while I jump into my reference. What was I saying? Yeah. I mean, it's as a storyteller, as a visual storyteller, it's my job to determine, where those moments are and decide what things can be changed and still retain, the essence of the story, and what cannot be changed under any circumstances. Like I said, 95% of the book is going to be the comic. I have immense respect for the source material, so don't worry about that. I feel like I'm already sort of like making excuses for it, but I promise you I'm just talking about why I'm doing things. I'm gonna have to fix that. I'll do that later. All right, so basically I color the line art and then I bring down the brightness on it a bit to give it a little softer look, and especially when the character is against something like this, like set against it, the character really pops with the black outlines. I don't want to take it too far. Ooh, see what I did there? Yeah, I gotta save. Well, that's all right. I'll fix it. No, what am I doing? Sorry. Talking to myself and kind of losing the plot here. I gotta select off. The glass cat, another character in the book, is behind the mirror here. That's one of those things where I'm not sure if it's suggested in the book. I know she goes to the mirror at a certain point, but I'm like, what if the glass cat's behind the mirror? So I thought there'd be a funny image of seeing her feet poking out while Patchwork Girl admires herself. All right, there we go. Oh, you know what I did? Oh yeah. I'm a scatterbrain. Sorry about that. I gotta do this again. Forgot to paste it in. There it is. Let's go up here and throw in my reference. There we go. We don't need all this, so let's cut that out. All right. I will get back to the subject at hand in just 1 second. Just want to make sure. Yeah, there we go. Is that really the color, or is it too dark? That's weird. Looks dark to me. Interesting. All right, that was number 7 on my list. Yeah, number 8. Number 8 is I've kind of talked about this, but number 8 is it's a fun book with great characters and a wonderful story. I kind of like I said, I lucked out that Marvel stopped at 6 so that somebody else could pick it up and do another Oz comic adaptation. And Patchwork Girl it feels right. It feels very right for me, especially at this time. That's one of the things that was really important to me is that should I even do this? Am I right? I think that's the next one. Let me check. It is number 9. I feel the time is right. Absolutely. I definitely feel like now is the right time, and I felt that way in 2022. Like I said, when I started the adaptation, it was like if I don't do this now, I don't know if I'll ever have a chance to do it. But also part of that was I had just gone through a bit of a health scare. I had a brain tumor, had the brain surgery, and I was all out of that and kind of looking at my life maybe a little differently. And thinking, you've always wanted to do this, so why don't you get moving? And so I decided to do it as a newsletter exclusive, like I said. This is gonna just shade me in. No, I don't want to do that. I'll do that with this. And like I was saying, one of the things that kind of led me to that decision, I'll darken this even more, is that I have been just for fun working on Oz character designs and posting them to my Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that, just for fun. And I was like, God, these characters are so fun. It would be so much fun to do them. And another great thing about Patchwork Girl is that at a certain point, we get to the Emerald City and we see a lot of the characters that we know and love. So it was also a chance to sort of do a comic featuring all those classic characters from previous books. At least to get to show them once, I'm definitely going to have to darken the line art for that. I'm going to check the live chat real quick, see if I missed anything. And again, I apologize for if I missed anyone chatting with me. Kind of going over the reasons why I'm doing Patchwork Girl. I'll tell you what, working on this series has been a big proof to the idea that if you're making comics, especially if you're making comics, with your own characters, but this really applies to anything, even if you're doing existing IP kind of characters, you better love the characters that you're working on. You better love the world they inhabit. You better love everything about it, because if you don't love it, you're in for a bad realization somewhere down the line. Because when you make comics, you're with these characters all the time. You have to draw them from every conceivable angle over and over and over and over. And if for some reason you get bored easily, I would not recommend making comics, because it requires sitting down for long periods of time, just like this, with nobody else, and doing the work. It's rough. So I think one of the reasons why I didn't do an Oz adaptation sooner was that I knew how much work it meant. I knew the pitfalls of starting something like this and then maybe feeling like it wasn't right. But after doing all those Oz character designs, that really sort of convinced me. What am I doing? That this was a project that I was willing to invest time in, and I'm grateful for that. They were just fun sort of design exercises. But they really kind of helped me to realize, yeah, this is something that you want to do. Just softening up the edges there a little bit. There we go. All right, what time is it? 2:43. Doing good, because we are at number 10. And number 10 is, I'm just going to read this verbatim from what I wrote. They say, write or draw the book you want to read. Well, I want this book to exist. I wanted this to exist, and nobody else was going to do it, apparently. And I said, okay, I guess it's on me. So that more than anything, it's like when you do something like this, I mean, this is, yes, it's based on an existing novel. It's been around since, I think, 2013, I think was the publication year for Patchwork Girl. This story's been around for a long time. Many people have read it and lived with it for a long time, much longer than I have. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. Something I ate. So ultimately, I want this to exist. I wanted to put my hands and feet in the wet cement of Oz, so to speak, and it's a huge honor to get to do that, especially now that Image is publishing it. Trust me, I feel the weight of it, because Oz to me is, it's huge. It's really huge in my creative life and world. So I understand that, I owe it to myself, not just to myself, but to others, to do my best to get it right, despite what super minor changes that I might make to certain things. I think I can name the planned changes. Well, one of them has already taken effect, like 2 things, and one of them sort of vexed me so much that I went to my wife and I explained, what I was planning to do, and luckily she was like, "Yeah, that makes sense." But it's always nice to have someone to run ideas by, and she's definitely good at that. I think I'd already made up my mind, but anyway, I hope to talk more about that aspect of this over the next few years as the series goes on. Oh, by the way, the plan is, I just realized that I don't have a reflection of the mirror itself. I just realized that. Gotta add that. Might have to make a couple changes to Patchwork Girl to accommodate that, but can't forget that, right? It's a mirror. I'm dumb. I'll make the change, I promise. These are things I notice as I'm working. I'm sure that my lovely wife, who is also sort of a pseudo-editor of these things, would have noticed it and been like, you forgot something. So if you're watching this and thinking, why didn't you include the actual reflection of the mirror parts? I will do that, I promise. What was I saying? Yeah, so it's a huge honor to get to do this, especially the fact that it's going to be published at Image. It would have been great even if I had just done it on my own, but the fact that it's going to be in comic shops and bookstores now, eventually when the trade comes out. Oh, that's what I was saying. It's 20 issues are planned. It's going to take 20 issues to adapt the book, which means almost that you get like 2 chapters of the book per comic, but it doesn't equal out exactly because that just sometimes it doesn't work that a good ending for a comic issue is exactly where a chapter left off. So but yeah, 20 issues, four graphic novel trade collections, and that's the plan. I've actually already solicited for the first trade. You can find it on Amazon already. It says a graphic novel, which needs to be changed. I've talked to Image about that because it's not just a single graphic novel. But yeah, you can already pre-order the trade of edition of the first 5 issues of this series on Amazon. The book world works so far in advance that I had to do that. And it kind of meant making a decision about what the cover would be, and I originally had a plan. You know what? I can show you what my original plan was. Where is this stuff here? There. So I was originally going to do. This was originally the sort of pseudo layouts for the first or the 4 trade editions, and it just wasn't when I started to really think things through, it wasn't working for me in the way that this does. The image I came up with for the issue 1, it's one of my favorite things I've ever drawn. It just pops, and I never speak highly of my own work. So every time I look at this, I'm like, that needs to be the cover for book 1 too. Well, also book 1 also. So it's doing double duty. I'll need to think of something for books 2 through 3, or 2 through 4 now. But I just couldn't get that image out of my head. It works so well as sort of an introduction, even though I originally created that as like a promo cover for the entire series when it was just the newsletter exclusive. I don't know what I'm trying to say about that. There we go. All right, I'm getting close to the end of the stream. This wasn't like the most difficult page to color. I'm going to do some more stuff to finish things off. Where's that? But I wanted to get in here and talk about the series sort of in depth in a way that I haven't really in one live stream. Let's do that. Give it a little bit. Because today, again, is final order cutoff day for issue 1. Just pull this up real quick. See, I'm sure you've seen this on my socials if you follow me. Where is it? No, it's... sorry, I've got stuff all over. There it is. This thing. It is final order cutoff day for issue 1 of the Patchwork Girl of Oz from Image Comics. So if you haven't gotten a pre-order in, please run to your local comic shop, give them a call, tell them you want to pre-order issue 1 of the Patchwork Girl of Oz from Image Comics. Pre-orders are so important in the world of comics. You have no idea. It's so important. I mean, actual sales once the issues are out is great too, because if you sell it, you can go into another printing. But pre-orders tell stores, comic shops, and tell the people who order these things, that there's an interest in it. And if they get people actually asking for a title, usually they'll order more issues than they might have planned because they can see the interest firsthand. So the final order cutoff is today. I think I have another thing that I've shown. Where is it? This. So I have this image on all my socials. You can go to my X Twitter account and find this. It's and if you want, you can print this out. You can color or black and white. Take it to your local shop, and it's got the lunar distribution code right there for the comic shop owner to look at. This kind of thing really helps. Let's see. I think that's I think that's pretty much it for today. Got some work to do still on that page. I will be back on Friday with more comic work, and anytime you see Makin comics on my live stream schedule on otisframpton.com, it's probably going to be about Oz, at least for the foreseeable future. Hopefully I'll get to a point where my schedule allows for more work on Oddly, but right now it's all Oz, which is great. But it's also like, I need to get back to doing some Oddly stuff too, because people ask about it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this stream. I hope you pre-order Patchwork Girl of Oz #1. I would be so grateful, and I hope that you enjoy it when it comes out. Please subscribe to all the places. You can watch my live streams at 2 p.m. Central pretty much daily. And thank you so much. Take care.